Rob and Jeremy, Whiskey in the Six and Social Sippers Club, they started the Whiskey Rant Podcast.
That's a phenomenal podcast.
Hey, welcome to Sippers Social Club. I'm Jeremy.
This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob.
Welcome to the Whiskey Rant Podcast.
It's a little crusty.
It's frustrating.
And it's going to be a little bit of a rant.
I don't understand it. I don't know why.
Some sort of injustice.
Anyway, end rant.
Hello and welcome back to the Whiskey Rant Podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Rob.
And tonight we are talking about rare bourbon, rare whiskey allocations, how it works. For us here in Ontario, the LCBO is rolling out their annual BTAC, PAPI, plus some other things popping up this year on the allocation lottery. So we'll talk about that. As you can see in front of us, our value whiskey tonight, the Kilkerran Heavily Peated. I'm rocking batch 1 in front of me right now. Rob, you have this year's, which is batch 3?
3. So this is batch 3, yeah.
Batch 3.
Still called Peat in Progress. I wonder if that's just because it's really young. I wonder if they're like going year by year with this one. So like let's say yours was a 3-year-old, like 3 years in a day. And then this one, the batch 2 was like 4 years in a day. And then this one is like 5 years in a day, maybe.
I don't know. Be interesting to figure out. I guess I don't really know. It's an NAS whiskey. It is cask strength, non-chill filtered, no added color. Delicious stuff and well priced in our opinion. Also, we'll be talking about secondary market finds. We're going to be talking about Bowmore, and that kind of relates to the allocation with the LCBO. A special bottle they've got coming in for that. So we'll continue on with some talk about Bowmore on the secondary market. And for our YouTube, Whiskey Tube talk, we're going to be talking about a trend that might be happening soon, and that's reviewing Johnnie Walker whiskey, the one of the most popular, well-known brands in the world, actually the most popular. And how many views videos like that can get for your channel? One of us knows very well about that. So let's start off with this whiskey. This one's bottled at 59.3% batch 1. This is 55% ex bourbon cask, 45% sherry cask.
Yeah, this one here is 59.7, and I think you were saying it's 80% bourbon cask, 20% sherry cask.
Yeah, so they changed the maturation type up for the newest batch, 2020, to include some more bourbon, less sherry. I was able to try that batch you have there. I loved it. I mean, this whiskey is a delight. It's that young, heavily peated stuff that, you know, both of us really enjoy a lot.
Yeah, I love it. I honestly like. It's a nice, affordable, maybe poor man's version of the Octomore, I guess you can say, right? Like, it's not as peated as the Octomore, but it's got like a lot of the like approach, like a lot of the things that you want in an Octomore. This has, yeah, it's not. I don't know if it's as like elaborate and has all the complexity of an Octomore, but this has some complexity to it too, despite being very young. I think you always mention that Octomore probably has some older whiskey in it. I think this is probably all young whiskey, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the profile of this, I mean, we were just talking a little bit before. I get this really nice, like, lemon custard, and like the lemon note, the fresh lemon that I get, very similar to Ardbeg's lemon note, like their 10-year-old, very similar to that. Love that note, that kind of grilled lemon custard, lemon meringue pie aspect to it. And
yeah, it's definitely more of an Isla style peat as opposed to a Campbelltown style peat. It's not your typical Campbelltown funk or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It's more, in my opinion, more reminiscent of the Isla style, and kind of reminds me of a younger Lefroy 10 or something like that.
Yeah, it seems like when Campbelltown bumps up their peat enough, it does get to like that Isla kind of profile. Mm-hmm. So really good. All right, so a rant tonight. We'll get to a little more of this later, and we'll score it at the end, of course. So again, it's coming around January, February. This is the time of year, the LCBO. If you're unaware, in Ontario, Canada, LCBO stand for the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and they are the only liquor stores that can sell spirits. They have their annual allocation lottery for BTAC bottles, Pappy Van Winkle, and others this year. Every year it is mostly frustrating for the most amount of people because you have 50,000 entries to win a couple hundred bottles. So the odds are you're going to come back empty. People love to get their friends and family involved, co-workers, etc. Everyone sign
those
up.
Damn Italians, those damn Italians with the 50, 60 family members involved.
See, if you got a big family, you got an advantage for sure. But yeah, I mean, very limited numbers, and we have, and the LCBO used to release how many bottles they were getting each year of stuff. They've stopped doing that. They've stopped releasing how much they're bringing in, but I can show you guys what came in 2019. This was the last year that they brought stuff in to give you a rough idea. And I would assume the numbers are probably about the same. They'll probably get this many bottles again. So you're looking at like George T. Stagg, we got 54 bottles of that in 2019. The Eagle Rare, 15 bottles. William LaRue Weller, 74. Thomas H. Handy, 24. Saz 18, 30. Pappy 23, we got 12 bottles. We got 15 of the 20 and 30 bottles of the Pappy 15-year-old. So very limited, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have, I think they have 30 to 50,000 entries of people trying to get their hands on this. So the odds that you're getting it very, very low. This is why I don't play like the provincial lotteries, because I hate losing and I hate, please play again is the worst 3 words in any gambler's arsenal. It's frustrating. You put your stuff in and you expect to see zeros across the board, but you've had some success. I've not. I've been pretty struck out the last 6 years in a row, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've had some luck, but it's never my account. It's always like a brother-in-law, a sister-in-law, a cousin, or whatever. So yeah, it's never easy to win this thing, and you got to be very careful because there was a year where I think my sister-in-law won William LaRue Weller, and my wife won a Van Winkle 12, and we paid for them under the same credit card, and they kiboshed both of them.
So
that was a nice punch in the face.
That's rough, and that's the LCBO's way of limiting people from just making multiple accounts. So the person that wins, they have to make the payment through, like, the credit card has to match their profile or whatever.
Yeah, there's easy ways around it. It's just I figured they're more lazy than I thought, and I didn't get away with it. That's all.
Yeah, I know someone who is a manager at a large corporation and gets all of his subordinates to fill out the LCBO allocation for him every single year. We're talking like over 100 people, legit accounts. So
wow,
yeah,
that's power.
He does very well. He does very well, and the allocation always comes home with a couple good ones. So here, I'll show you what they've got coming in this year. They've added a lot of stuff to the allocation this year.
I'm kind of glad they did this, and I know a lot of people are criticizing them for it, but I'm glad because I feel like some people are just going to pick all that other stuff, and then it's just going to filter out. Like all the people that got their family members to pick, the family members are just going to click everything and then like send it through, and then that's
you're gonna end up with a 1972 Sweet Wheat instead of that Pappy 23, and you're like, I don't want this.
Or worse, like an Ardbeg that you can get anywhere for like a regular, it's a regular buy at any other whiskey shop.
So let's talk about this Ardbeg here. So they've put Ardbeg onto the allocation list. Now, if you're in Ontario, you'll know that the LCBO has not stocked Ardbeg in, I want to say, a year and a half at least. I'm pretty sure they have not had a single bottle of it in a while. And there's a reason to this. And Rob, you kind of had some insight to this. You want to tell them what happened with Ardbeg and the LCBO?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, there was a good period of time where Alberta stopped shipping out of province. And it was because of places like the LCBO and the SAQ that were really coming down on them, because people were buying product from those provinces, or from Alberta, sorry, and bringing it back to those provinces, so Quebec and Ontario. And I guess they were returning them to those liquor stores and making a profit, essentially. So you would buy, you know, your Ardbeg Corey for $100 in the you know, in Alberta, and then it's $200 at the LCBO, and they take back everything. So people were walking away with a nice $100 profit.
Yeah, so the LCBO's return policy is that you can return anything to them. You don't need a receipt as long as the bottle is unopened and in resellable condition, and they still have it on their inventory list. So this is where I think what's happened with Ardbeg and the LCBO. They've completely stopped shelving it. They've completely taken it off their inventory list, so no one can return bottles there, because you're getting, you know, double the value in a return. And I think what they're doing now that they're putting this on allocation is they're going to know exactly who's purchased an Ardbeg from them going forward. And they'll know if you're returning a bottle that you've purchased somewhere else. That's my theory on that. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that seems kind of what they're doing. Because why would they allocate Ardbeg? It's not an allocated bottle. It's readily available everywhere. So
no, you're right. I think that's probably bang on. I think if let's say they don't want to go that far, they're not playing like detective, they're able to not take back anything from the LCBO unless you have a receipt. Like, you know, because if you bought it in a lottery and you won it in the lottery, then A, they'll know who won them in the lottery. B, you'll have a receipt to prove that you won it in the lottery.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're not stocking it on shelves. So they really, they now have the right, if they don't have it on their website, they don't have to take it back. So they've recently changed that.
I mean, what they could do is price it reasonably like the rest of the world does, and then no one will have an issue of needing to buy it from somewhere else and return it to them for an exchange value.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Like, you guys saw the prices. Like, the 10-year-old's $100. The Corey reckons $200. Those are, you know, $50 and $75 bottles in the US. You know, they're cheap everywhere else as well.
Yeah.
It's complete robbery what they're due to people in Ontario, and it's completely unfair, and they got taken advantage of because of it. So why not price it? I'm not saying you have to be like the cheapest price, but make it competitive enough that there's no incentive to cheat the system, and you're giving it to your customers at a reasonable price.
It shouldn't be anywhere near 100% markup versus everybody else. Okay, let me give you a little insider scoop here. Most retailers in Alberta are marking up their regular bottle that comes in 30%. So if it's 30% markup from them, the LCBO, for those of you that don't know, actually get bottles cheaper than the rest of the country. And the reason why they get it cheaper than the rest of the country for the most part is because of their buying power compared to the rest of the country. Yeah. So they're getting these bottles cheaper. Alberta's marking them up 30% and coming in 100% cheaper than Ontario when it comes to Ardbeg. So there's literally no reason, no logic. They're just gouging us. That's all it is. They're getting it cheaper, charging double what other. So basically 130% on top of whatever.
Yeah.
If my math is correct.
Yeah, it's it's ridiculous. And I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see if Ardbeg finds its way back to the shelf ever again. It'd be interesting if they are just going to do allocations for it going forward or not. Usually what happens when if they don't allocate all of these bottles, then they'll move them to the shelf. So we'll see what happens. I don't see that many people buying Ardbeg through this, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, there are those guys that have been waiting for Corey and Ugadal to hit the shelf again. They love it, and they're the honest type that don't buy from other provinces. I guess if you call us dishonest for buying from other provinces, but yeah.
They do have the new Ardbeg 25-year-old coming in at a nice $1,405.
Yeah, so that's an expensive bottle, but it seems to be relatively the global price.
It's actually, yeah, you're right. It's not that bad because I've seen it. I'm not sure whether like it retails for at like MSRP, but I have seen it at a UK site, which is not. They're selling it for like 750 British pounds, which is about 1,300, 1,250, something like that. So it's almost right there. So yeah. I will not be buying that bottle. I cannot imagine it being so much better than the 19-year-old, which I was disappointed with.
Yeah.
Unless they're pulling some crazy stock. I don't know. We'll see.
I revisited the 19 last night, and I was not impressed. It was the batch 2. I mean, it's good. It's what everybody would call, all the like old school whiskey drinkers would call old school Scotch, in my opinion. It has all those old school flavors, very, very like low cask influence, probably very tired casks. The spirit speaks for itself, that sort of thing, and it's good.
Yeah,
but it's definitely not $400 and whatever dollars worth good. I can't imagine that 25-year-old being that good. Just
I would love to see a review. Like I would love to see like Serge review it and get an honest opinion on it. So we'll see. Kind of interesting to see some other stuff that's on here. Like we mentioned before, the 1972, bottle and bond, single barrel, wheats all coming through here.
The only one I'm actually interested out of those is the wheat. Though I haven't tried the wheat.
I haven't tried it either.
Yeah, that I would like to try. But I mean, are you gonna waste a chance to win one of the other bottles by putting that on the list?
No.
So what I will say is, despite it being still quite a bit more than what it costs in the US, the BTAC bottles and the Pappy bottles are all pretty well priced.
They are very well priced, and I think they're pretty close to MSRP if you take the conversion rate plus maybe like a 20% or something like that. It's not too bad. Like
it's not bad considering what they go for on secondary, right? Like it's
and Pappy Van Winkle has gone up huge on secondary in the last year. You're looking at 16, $1,700 US for a 15-year-old now, where they were under 15 a little while ago, so they jumped up a couple $100. But yeah, $200 for a Pappy 15 is very reasonable, I think.
Yeah. You know what, Phil from Mystery, what's the name of the channel again?
Whiskey Mystery.
He brought up a good point on one of my Springbank videos recently. He said it's really sad because Springbank does an incredible job of producing their whiskey, and I think you can probably fit Buffalo Trace into this category, because the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection is high quality bourbon compared to, it's really good stuff, and there's a reason why it has the fame it has. Same with Springbank. The moment these hit retailers, usually you're getting retailers that are going to charge astronomical prices for those bottles, right? Yeah. Where Springbank and the distilleries in Kentucky, they have to pay all their employees, pay for the lights on, all that stuff, like the overhead that they have to go through in their $90 or $80 per bottle that they make, compared to 100 times that, sometimes 200, 300, 400 times that these retailers are making. it's absurd. And like, he didn't go into that kind of detail with it, but I knew exactly what he was getting at. Like, it really, when he said that, it hit home for me, because I've been following a lot of distilleries recently, and like watching the process and watching the love and the passion that they put into it. And when you see the amount of money that these retailers are making, and it's, I don't want to call it a passionless job, because I believe that there are retailers out there that are passionate about what they do, but for the most part, it's all about the dollar bills.
Yeah.
So, but that's not it at all with these distilleries. It's the opposite. In fact, it's about the product.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, how much effort and time are they putting into their job versus the distillery themselves? And it seems like they're profiting more than the distillery is per bottle. You know, it seems
far
insane.
more, far more.
Great. Yeah.
And yeah, sure, they have overhead, and yeah, sure, they have costs and this and that, but the amount of work that went into making that $75 bottle that finally hit shelf, and maybe after taxes they're getting $50 of that, and then it's turned around and sold for $1,000, and the guy that's making the whiskey's like, what the hell just happened?
Right.
I mean, like, it's insane.
Yeah. One bottle that obviously struck everyone's eye on this list is the Bowmore Black 1964. This is the Aston Martin bottling. Really cool bottle, actually. I'll throw it up on the screen. They fashioned the bottle out of an actual Aston Martin engine piston, which I thought was really cool. The famous Black Bowmores from 1964, obviously very well renowned. And we were talking about this before. Very interesting. It's a 1964 31-year-old. So this stuff came out of the cask in what, 1995?
Yeah, quite a while ago. And then we were wondering, like, what happened to it? Was it vatted? Was it this? Was it that? And then I think, well, like I mentioned off camera, what they probably did is they got a bunch of bottles, maybe 30 bottles of slowly evaporating Bowmore Black, and then they dumped them into these, what, 20, how many bottles did you say they made of this?
Yeah, so there was only 27 bottles produced of this, and I think Bowmore they kept 2 back for themselves, so there's 25 available to the market.
Yeah, so I feel like that's the most logical thing about what possibly happened with this. Like, they just rebottled into a nicer bottle.
Right.
And
I mean, and you know, $85,000 for this bottle is actually not too bad if you take a look at what the price on this is. I think it goes for around 50,000 British pounds. You do the conversion on 50,000 British pounds, you're looking at, you know, right at 86,000 Canadian dollars. So right there, LCBO got one. They got one bottle out of the 25 available throughout the world. Whoever is going to buy this is going to make some money for sure. I think they'll instantly make at least 10 grand, and you hold on to this thing. Who knows how much this could go for eventually, you know, double the price in a couple of years. I would think probably no problem.
Yeah. Well, how many years ago was it where the LCBO got 2 bottles of that 72-year-old Macallan? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Was that like the Lalique one, like that crazy one, right?
Yeah. So I remember having a conversation with my brothers and my dad at the time of those popping out. And it's not like I had a shot at buying them, because I think like some hedge fund guy came in and bought both of them at the same time. But though, like I tried to convince them to buy a bottle, and they're like, "You're crazy. That's absurd. that's you know, 3 cars worth of money." And I said, "I bet you in no time this will be worth triple." And I was wrong, because it's like, I think worth like 10 times the amount that it originally sold for.
Right.
So yeah, so it's crazy. And I don't know if this Bowmore will have the same effect, but it'll definitely double or triple in the next little while.
Yeah.
What I would be curious to find out is what do the original bottles of the Bowmore Black go for?
Well, I'll get into that when we talk about it on the secondary market, because I did look that up. I do know the retail price, I think roughly for the original Black Bowmores.
Awesome.
one more thing I wanted to mention on this list. Do you see that the LCBO still uses the Whiskey Bible scores? And do you know why they use Whiskey Bible scores for their stuff?
I'm assuming because it's brought them so much business over the years.
It's
That,
because Jim Murray scores everything 95 and up.
well,
Like
that's
every
also
single
true.
thing is 95, 96, or 97 out of 100.
Yeah.
And you put that on your bottle, it's like, oh, wow, like that's a high score.
How many 95s have you given out on your channel?
One.
Yeah, me too. One, nothing more.
And it was
One.
a Brora, and it was a Brora 38-year-old.
There you go. Yeah. Mine was the Mortlock, the Gordon MacPhail Mortlock 31-year-old that we had. What was your score on that one?
94, I think it was.
And yeah, so that's my highest score, and still to this day probably my favorite whiskey. And that just like that's an example of our like where we differ in palate, because then again, I haven't had nearly as much of the Brora 38-year-old that you've had, right? But
I mean, if you look at Jim Murray, he scored the 1972 Bottle and Bond 96.5. I mean,
so like at what point does someone's scoring become just like white noise? Because like
it's completely irrelevant. His scores are completely useless.
Yeah. There's a few reviewers that do this. When you're scoring, I shouldn't say a specific bottle, but like when you score run-of-the-mill stuff in the mid to high 90s, like where do you go from there? Like how can you go much higher than that? Like,
yeah, you'd have to.
And I feel like I'm a generous marker. I honestly believe I am. I'm a generous marker. I feel like, I give maybe a point higher on average, at least a point or two higher on average than you do, right? And obviously we differ with some things. Some things you score higher than I do and whatever else, but I don't know. I don't understand how people can just give out a 95 so easily, give out a 97 so easily. Those are scores that you reserve, you keep close to the chest until, that one whiskey wows you.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with people commenting as well. It's like, if this is the best whiskey you've ever tried, why isn't it 99 or 100 out of 100? I'm like, well, because I know that whiskeys exist that are better than this, because I've seen people talk about it and I've seen people review them, and I know that they're out there. And it might not be the same for my palate, but it probably is, right? There's probably lots of better whiskey out there that I haven't tried yet. So yeah, that's the reason.
Now, here's an interesting question, and we're veering a bit off topic, but I want to know what you think. Is it possible to still make whiskeys that are going to score those 97s, 98s, 99s, 100s?
That's a good question. It is a really good question. I think probably not, because there's the methods, and it's more about profit now. The casks are different. You're not getting the same cask. You're not getting the same wood. I mean,
no, yeah, you're not paying for a 30-year-old Springbank and getting 50, 60-year-old Springbank dumped into that vatting because they went way under proof.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen anymore. So if that's not going to happen anymore, then yeah, I think we're screwed.
Well, I mean, you just have to buy auction bottles that are from the 60s and that cost 10 grand each.
Yeah, I guess that's where you go. I mean, Gordon MacPhail seems to have some like really cool casks that they've locked away, and are still coming out with some really old stuff that, like I said, they've locked away, and it's sat in one cask for such a long time, and they're monitoring these casks for sure, because they're not going to let a cask like that drop below the proper proof, right? So
yeah. Well, let's move into our secondary market finds, and we're talking Black Bowmore for the secondary market. Lots of different editions of the Black Bowmore. I think there's like 3 or 4 or 5 different ones. there's three main ones: the first, second, and third editions, and then there's a couple other ones that kind of came out as well. So secondary market, what I found just searching some UK auction sites, looking at the edition one, anywhere between £15,000 and £20,000. The editions 2 and 3 around 10,000 each. And then they came out with a couple other ones. There was like a 50-year-old Black Bowmore in there. That's around 21,000 or so, 22,000.
Which begs the question, right? Like, why am I going to go spend 85,000? Even if you're rich, but you know a little bit of something about whiskey, why am I going to go spend 85 grand on this Aston Martin edition when I could buy these guys? Okay, like assuming anybody actually opens that, like, do you think there's going to be one open bottle of that Aston Martin edition? Probably not.
No, because you're right, because it's probably not going to drink as well. We don't know, but it might not drink as well as some of these other Bowmores. They're older, right? They're like 41 years old or so for some of these. There's 42-year-old. Yeah, there's a 50-year-old Black Bowmore. I mean, is it going to drink better than that? I don't know. I mean, what's the point of opening it? It's a pure collector's bottle. There's only 25 in the world. It's not going to get open, I wouldn't think, unless
it's an art piece.
Someone does it for charity, right? Like maybe there's an excuse, like you make your money back for charity plus more for everyone sampling it, or something like that could happen. But
yeah, that would be cool. But then again, like who's going to cough up? Unless they're doubling their money at least.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone pays what, like 10 grand a pour for the Aston Martin Bowmore or something like that, right?
Yeah, I could see that happening. But I mean, this is an art piece. It's meant to be an art piece. It's meant to be like the feature on the wall.
Yeah, that's
like not even a part of a bar. It's just like a floating shelf that has a spotlight on it, and then that's it.
It is a beautiful bottle.
It's a gorgeous bottle for sure.
So there are a couple people on YouTube that have reviewed Black Bowmores. Our good friends Malt Reviews, they did, I think, the third edition, and Horst Looning, whiskey.com, did a Black Bowmore. I think he did the first edition back in 2014, I think, well before he knew the value of that bottle would go crazy. I think he said in that video retail prices were around 2,500 euro at the time.
Wow. Yeah, there's no way Horst is opening up anything that he thinks is going to appreciate and value that substantially.
So yeah, Horst, you're looking at at least more than 10 times the value of that bottle now. But good for him. I mean, I think he was celebrating 100 whiskey reviews or something like that at the time. So he cracked that bad boy. Bowmore, I mean, people talk about 1964 as being the year for Bowmore. Now, Bowmore went through an ownership change in 1963. I think since 1964, the new owners came in, they had a real focus on quality. And that's why you're getting all these people talking about these 1964 Bowmores. They must have sourced like amazing casks that year. Their distillate, they probably put a little more emphasis on their distillate that year too. So you're talking all these 64 Bowmores are like legendary stuff. You hear Malt Reviews talk about 64 all the time for Bowmore stuff. So that could be the reason that new ownership, new focus on quality, you're getting all these exceptional casks coming out from that year.
Yeah. I wonder if that had anything. Well, Jim McEwen was, I think, there at that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
He spent a long time at Bowmore before he went to Bruichladdich. He basically ran, him and one other guy ran the show, not the back room, the barrels anyway. So I wonder. Thing is, too, back then we talked about this a dozen times. The quality of the casks were just next level because people were drinking a lot of sherry. People were drinking a lot of old sherry, which I wonder where some of these new casks are coming from. Like Glenn Farkless does a really good job of finding some ridiculously, like, I don't know, like the sherry's obviously next level because some of their first fill sherry casks are legendary, like incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you've had some really nice family casks. I mean, you hear people talk about the family casks and some of those just being super epic.
Yeah, so they still exist. Those casks still exist, but it's just finding old sherry to age these casks so that they can, you know, give back to the whiskey.
One thing I think is really cool about these Black Bowmores is they're coming in at natural cask strength at 40.5% ABV, at least for one of these versions was anyway.
Can you imagine monitoring these casks? Like, that's like a nightmare. You wake up and it's like a point lower the next day.
It's
like
39.9 and you've completely ruined it.
for sure those guys have anxiety dreams where they're like they're measuring the ABV of the cask and it drops below 40 and they have a heart attack in their dream. Guaranteed. That's like my university dream where I can't find my class because I never went.
And that's a good point, actually, going back to this Aston Martin Bowmore, is that they probably did have to bottle these things, right? Because they were probably dipping down like right at 40% ABV, and you can't let that thing dip down. So they did probably bottle a whole bunch and just kept it, and now they've rebranded it to the Aston Martin. So that's probably a good point.
Yeah, I think that's the most logical. Yeah. I don't see them vatting it for what it would have been an additional 20 years or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Almost. So
added a couple of drops of water to this. I love like the vanilla cake that I'm getting out of this. I'm assuming this is from like the bourbon cask, even though this is 45% sherry. It's pretty light in color. You know, I'd say probably refill sherry for sure.
Yeah. Actually, I said additional 20 years. I meant additional like 30 years, but
30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is, I just added a little bit of water in mine and I'm loving this. Like, for the price, let's talk about price. Do we talk about price?
Yeah, I wrote down the prices of these because they are very well priced in a lot of different markets. The UK especially, Master of Malt has this bottle for 38 pounds. I mean, exceptional value.
Yeah.
Total Wine, $79 US, and Craft Cellars here in Alberta, Canada, 105 Canadian dollars.
Yeah, I think some places had it as low as like $90 in Canada.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, $90 all in, I think I paid for this one. And that's a steal, in my opinion. Like, what are you getting for less than $100 in Canada right now? Well,
not much at this quality, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I did a video that's going to be coming out probably next week or the week. Well, depending on when this drops. This will probably drop, whatever. It'll either be before or after this video drops. But it was my top 10 $50 or less whiskeys. And I just went with what we have in Ontario because using the United States wouldn't work because they're like different prices in every state. And it's kind of a disaster trying to organize all that. So I just went with what we have available to us in Ontario. And the pickings are slim, man. The pickings are slim.
They are. Like, for under $50, I mean, you're looking at some bourbons, but really you almost have to go to like under 100 because you can't really get that. You can get baseline whiskey, but to get some like actual good sippers, you got to go up to that $100 mark because that's really in Ontario where you're looking at to buy a good bottle of whiskey. Yeah,
you might get your Amber Fusion is like $80 or Glendronach 12 is like $85 or something like that. Like Highland Park 12, $70. Like that's probably in my opinion, that's probably the best buy at the LCBO. $70, 12-year-old, Highland Park, 43%.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a better buy under $100.
I mean, there's some good bourbons you can still get like Rare Breed, like 70 or 65.
Yeah, I think it is 65. Yeah, great price. Even the 1920 is a really well priced whiskey.
Yeah, not bad. And then, but if you go to Scotch, I mean, yeah, you're looking at least $70, right? Like the Aberlour Abuna is a good price at 100. We've discussed that one before.
Yeah,
and you're right. Highland Park at 7. Yeah, but
Tircano 16 used to be at the LCBO for around $99. Now it's long gone. Like when we talk about LCBO price, keep in mind that these are taxes included. So everything is priced with taxes included. For our viewers that don't know or listeners that don't know, but yeah, there's not much under $100 that I'd say, hey, this is great whiskey or whatever, you know. I mean, they exist, but it's just not much. Yeah. Actually, you know what's a very good priced, a very good whiskey for the price at the LCBO is probably Lagavulin 8-year-old.
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
That's
what
what
they want. That was like what, 80 or 90?
I think 90. Yeah, I think 90.
Yeah, but it's tough. I mean, here in Ontario, I mean, you saw the prices of Ardbeg there. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane what they want for this stuff. Even Johnnie Walker, and we'll get into that now. You're looking, if you want to buy a Johnnie Walker, I didn't realize that they have someone pointed out to me that they have the Johnnie Walker Double Black, but it's $70. You know how much that bottle is in the US? Like $28.
That's insane.
$70 for the Johnnie Walker Double Black. I couldn't believe it. Because they didn't have it at the LCBO for the longest time.
Yeah, I remember buying a Double Black in the US because you weren't able to buy it at the LCBO for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think it was like travel retail, maybe when it first came out, if I'm not mistaken, and then it went to different markets, and then finally came here. But yeah, $70. That's absurd to me.
It's absurd, but yet I would say it's probably still, compared to what you're getting at that price range, one of the better buys. Like Johnnie Walker Double Black, is actually a really good whiskey in my opinion, right? So
I think Johnnie Walker Double Black is a nice whiskey. It's a great introduction to what like a peated Scotch is. Like I'm not talking like Highland Park level or something that are like low, like you wouldn't really consider like a peated whiskey. This is a good intro to peated whiskey. It's nice and soft. It's not going to like attack you, but it gives you a good amount of smoke and a good amount of peat.
Yeah, I mentioned it actually in another video I did recently, so that one's coming out. But that video is not really meant for people that know a thing or two about whiskey. It's more meant for the beginner.
So reviewing Johnnie Walker. So as you guys know, I had a Johnnie Walker core range video that did very well on YouTube. I think it's at currently like 1.7 million views.
You had a Johnnie Walker video that went viral? What?
Yeah, it's that awesome video that we got all those good comments from.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did very well. It blew up huge when it first came out.
I remember when that video went viral, and I was calling you like probably every day to like check this. Like I was probably checking the status of it more than you were.
Yeah, you were.
It was insane. It was such a crazy climb because like, do you remember what your subtotals were at like that point?
Yeah, I think I was around maybe like 500 subs or maybe 600 or so. And it kept ticking up. And I remember I was looking at it because Swami, Malted Montreal, had recently chirped me because I had just started the channel, and he was saying how I had no subscribers and he was making fun of me because of it. And that video dropped, and I just passed him within like instantly. Yeah, it was within like a couple days of when he chirped me, and then boom, I was past him. I remember I screenshotted my sub count with his sub count, and I upticked him by 1, and I screen capped it, and I put out a video of him making fun. I'll play it right now. Pause for play.
Let's do a trivia question. How about for my loyal subscribers? Oh, Swami's chirping me that I don't have any subs. Oh yeah, bud? Okay, we'll see where I'm at after how many years you've been on the channel for. The chirp's coming hard tonight. All right.
So I made this video, and just ruined his day with it. It was so good. I was so happy. I remember my girlfriend at the time, still at the time, sorry. She
still the same girlfriend for the record.
Same girlfriend, yeah, sorry. At the time, she texted me you're 10 subs away from beating Swami, you're 5 subs away from beating Swami. So it was a fun day for sure. And yeah, that thing just went crazy. I think in one day I gained like, I don't know, like over like 1,300 subscribers or something in a day or something like that. It went crazy.
Yeah, that video went nuts. And then it just kept going from there, right? Like you still get, you were saying you average around like 2,000 or 2,500 views a day on that video.
Yeah, I think it varies between 1,500 to like 3,000 views a day sometimes. It just depending on the day, it goes crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the average views that most YouTubers, most YouTubers under 20,000 get a day on all of their videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that video does so well, and for good reason. I mean, Johnnie Walker is the global whiskey brand. It's very popular throughout the world. It's advertised to death. A lot of my subscribers come from big markets. Like India is a huge view count for that video. Johnnie Walker is big over there for sure. So yeah, it was something I always wanted to do. I remember talking to you about this when I didn't even have a channel. We were going to do it on your channel. That's when right. I was kind of making some cameos here and there on your lives. And I was like, we should do this core range, like the entire Johnnie Walker thing, start to finish. And it never kind of escalated. And then I eventually did it on my channel.
Yeah.
Which worked out. And we have some colleagues that have kind of done the same thing and tried their hand at it.
Yeah, so the Scotch for Dummies, they posted this video and it did it did well. I think it had probably, I want to say 30 to 50,000 views, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. I'm just guessing right now, but they had it posted for a year. And then 3 weeks ago, it went bonkers.
Yeah, it went going crazy.
Yeah, and now I believe it's north of 500,000.
Yeah.
They went from 14,000 subs, I think, to 2,600 subs or something like that. 26,000, sorry. Yeah. 26,000 subs in a matter of a week and a half to 2 weeks or something like that. So these, if you want to go viral,
I mean, if you take a look at, let's say, take Ralphie for example, look at his most viewed video. I'm pretty sure it's a Johnnie Walker Red or Black or Blue. It's one of those ones, and it's the most viewed. Yeah. I mean, it's people search it out, and yeah, like Scotch for Dummies, that video hit the same algorithm that mine probably did, and just gets into suggested boxes and whatever YouTube does with their suggested videos, and it gets autoplayed next, and yeah, like it's good for them. But yeah, I think we're gonna see a trend of whiskey tubers doing the core range Johnnie Walker video. I mean, it seems like it's the home run hitter.
I think so. We should probably make a little wager on who's gonna do it next.
Yeah, whiskey in the 6 at 2-1 favorite.
Whiskey in the 6. There's times where I thought about it. I think if I were to do a Johnnie Walker video, it'd be like my top 5. That's probably like top 6 Johnnie Walker whiskeys.
I mean, it would be cool if someone took it outside of the core range, right? Like take all the special releases Johnnie Walkers, take like the Ghost Rares ones, all those other ones, and do a rundown of those, because those are the ones that you don't really see hardly ever. Right. One, because they're super expensive, but
yeah, a lot of them can be expensive, like the Ghost, the Brewer Ghost and Rare or whatever it's called.
There's
a
there's an extra old blue label, I think, or something like that.
There's now the 28-year-old, which is the bicentennial release, one of the bicentennial releases.
Yeah.
You know what I really enjoyed by them? I did a review of it not that long ago. Is the celebratory blend, which is 51%.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good considering it's about $110 in Ontario. $100, I can't remember exactly, but I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, and you lent that bottle to me. I'm gonna review it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna compare that to what was that Diageo like Collectivum or Collective something or other? 20,
Oh yeah, the Collectivum. Yeah, that was a video we bottle split like years ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that comparison because that's kind of cool because they're both like Diageo. They kind of like probably pull from all their distilleries, right? Like the Collectivum is from every distillery, isn't it? Or for majority of Diageo owned distilleries?
It's a bunch of the single malt distilleries from Diageo.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a cool comparison. So I might do that in the upcoming weeks or months.
Yeah, essentially it's a Johnnie Walker, just like real special Johnnie Walker, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But is that one cask strength?
You know what? I think I have it right here. Just pause for a second. So here it is.
Collective.
It is it's bottled at 57.3. It's 28 famous single malts master blended to perfection. So it's blended malt, so it's all single malt blend.
Yeah, I think a mix of old and young, but for the most part, I think they stayed relatively in the high teens.
Yeah, so I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but
it's hard to read.
Anyway, it lists all the distilleries there. So these are all like the Diageo owned distilleries that's in this thing.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a really good bottle. I'm curious to know what that tastes like right now. Probably way better.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've tried this bad boy. So I think I'll do this versus that new celebratory Johnnie Walker and see how they compare.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It is natural cask strength. Yeah, cask strength.
Yeah, so the celebratory blend is 51%. I'm guessing some people think it's the gold brought to 51%.
Oh, really?
Because of the flavor profile. I wouldn't be surprised, but based on the price, it would be, I think it's leaning more towards probably the black up to 51.
Okay.
There's not really any peat to it whatsoever. That's the only thing. I don't know. Does a regular, I can't remember. Does the regular black have peat?
A slight amount. It does have some smoky.
Yeah, I thought it did. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it might have a little bit of like Talisker or something in there. It does give that little bit of smokiness.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of smokiness, this thing has gotten kind of like more like charcoaly, peaty to me now since it's opened up quite a bit in this glass.
Yeah, with water, it definitely it leaves the thing I was saying about it being very similar to Isla style peat, and it becomes, I don't know, something different. Like you were saying, charcoaly. If it's still in the Isla kind of peat profile, it's more like a Lagavulin with water, as opposed to maybe a heavier peated Lagavulin, right?
Yeah.
But with water. Without water, it's leaning more towards, like you said, an Ardbeg or even a Lafroig, right?
Well, what are you going to score yours? Keep in mind that you have batch 3, I have batch 1.
Yeah, so you're going to get, either way, you always get a different score, or often get a different score from the two of us, but these will probably score. How long have you had yours open too? So that might factor in.
I opened it today.
Oh, you opened it today?
Yeah, I didn't realize that I hadn't opened it. I thought that I did, but I didn't. So I opened it right now.
Oh, right on. I'm going to give this one, I don't do value points, but this one deserves it, but I'm still not going to do it. So keep that in mind. I'm scoring this one an 87, but if I could buy this on a regular basis, I would buy it every time I finish the bottle. So yeah, 87 for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is an 87.5 for me, and for value points, I'm giving it at least a point for value to bring it up to 88.5, which 88 is the cutoff where I suggest you buy it if you haven't tried it before. So yeah, definitely this is a recommended buy from me. I mean,
usually me too.
I mean, it's got it would be if this thing had an age statement on it that was older. I mean, you might lose a little bit of like that heavy peatiness, but you do get a little bit of bite, like youthful bite. You can tell that this is a younger whiskey. But I mean, it's still delicious stuff. And I mean, young peated whiskey is so good. So
I'm tempted to put this one up against the Kilkerran 8 bourbon cask that I have. I don't think the Kilkerran 8 is as peated, nowhere near as peated. But I want to like taste the difference in like youth, if it's possible. See if I can taste the difference. Because the 8 is young, but we're finding out now that 8 isn't as young tasting as we thought, right? And that's probably because the noise statement phenomenon that happened when we both started our channels prepared us for younger whiskeys. Right? So, that could be part of it.
Our palate's been trained very well.
Yeah. But I'm totally in agreement with you. This could be higher than I marked it. I would definitely buy it again. So that's always a solid indication that I really liked it, right? So
yeah, I think this is a yearly release that we will definitely be looking to get, especially if the prices stay, around that $100 Canadian price point. I don't think you can go wrong at all for that.
Yeah, and I would think, unfortunately, the way Kilkerran goes and the way Springbank goes and the way those companies tend to trend on secondary, that the bottle that you have is probably worth close to $200 now.
Oh, so I just cracked the investment, did I?
Yeah. the original, that's the original right there, right?
Batch 1, baby.
It's the idea, like it's the only thing that's making me want to buy a Highland Park cask strength batch 1, because other than that I really don't care about it.
Right. Yeah.
It's good, but I would rather this.
For sure. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks so much for checking us out. As always, like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, we also put this out on a podcast. All major streaming services have it, so you can check us out there as well.
We have a big surprise coming. Big surprise.
We do have a surprise coming up for this channel. We won't reveal what it is, but stay tuned for maybe some more little hints along the way. Yeah. But always trying to bring you guys some awesome content. So if you like us, throw a like down there, give us a comment, let us know what you think. And until next time, have a good one, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.